Hey there! Today we are cooking with meat, assorted vegetables, stock, and cornstarch. I'm Jessica, and what do you make of this? I love a good stir fry. It's a great way to clean out your fridge, it's a healthy way to feed a crowd, and they're very versatile. You can change up the ingredients based on what you have on hand or even just what you like, and every stir fry will be a little different. That's what makes it so much fun. The other thing that makes a great stir fry is a really good sauce. So what I'm going to teach you today is just a great method for a stir fry sauce that you can, again, change up just like the ingredients in the rest of your stir fry to really make your own. What I'm using today is just some stock, some soy sauce, some cornstarch, as well as some assorted spices. And again, I cannot stress this enough, all of the different spices are things that you can really mix and match, add and subtract as you like or as you have today. So let's get going with this. What we're going to start with is just about a cup of stock, and I am using beef stock because I'm going to be cooking with steak today, but you can, again, change this up. You can use chicken stock, you can use vegetable stock, you can try to pair the stock so that it matches the meat that you're cooking with, or you can do completely different things. A chicken stock with some pork, a fish stock with some tofu. It's really okay to mix and match because you get some very interesting flavor combinations. So, like I said, we've got our cup of stock here. To that, we are going to add about a tablespoon of soy sauce. I'm just going to free pour it because we can always add a little more in if it's not quite enough. To that, we are going to add some cornstarch. So cornstarch is really the thing that makes a stir fry sauce. What it does is it helps to thicken the sauce, and it doesn't really work its magic until it gets hot in the pan. But when it does, that's what gives it that really nice, thick, velvety consistency that makes a stir fry so lovely. So we're going to put to this a tablespoon of cornstarch and just a pinch of all of our spices. So what I am working with today is onion powder, garlic powder, ginger, crushed red pepper flakes, and ground black pepper. Again, add as much or as little as you like based on what you like the taste of and what you have on hand today. I'm going to just do a pinch of each. That was our onion powder. This is our garlic powder. This is the ginger. These are the crushed red pepper flakes. If you don't like it spicy, leave it out. If you like it spicy like me, add 2 pinches. And some black pepper. The reason we're not adding salt is because there is already salt in the soy sauce, and if we added more, it would get very salty very quick. Just dust off my hands here. We're going to grab a whisk and we're going to mix this together. So while I talked, the cornstarch kind of settled to the bottom and stuck to the bottom of the bowl. Just keep whisking. You will feel it once it starts to blend in. It will get a little lighter. You'll feel it loosen from the bottom of the bowl. Keep working at it, and as you can see, this is already getting a lot lighter as the cornstarch is mixing in. Right now it's quite thin, and you're probably thinking to yourself, this does not look like a stir-fry sauce. But just wait. Like I said, the magic happens the second this hits the pan and comes to a boil. The whole thing will turn into a beautiful, thick, smooth, clear sauce that tastes great. So if you're really not sure how much spice to add, like I said, start with a pinch. You can always add more, and then just give it a taste. That's got some kick to it from that red pepper flake, but it does need a little more salt. So we're going to add in a little bit more soy sauce. Maybe just about a teaspoon at this time. We'll mix it again. One more taste. That is going to be a good stir-fry sauce. All right, sauce is done. Let's talk protein. There are 5 very common types of protein that are used in stir fry, and they are chicken, beef, pork, shrimp, and tofu. The reason they're so popular for stir fries is because they're relatively firm kinds of protein and they hold up very well to this specific cooking method. So for today's lesson, I am using steak, and I am specifically using flank steak. The reason I love flank steak for a stir fry is because it's a very affordable cut of beef, and in my grocery store, it's almost always on sale. The reason it's so cheap is because it tends to be a tougher cut of meat. But if you know how to slice this properly, it actually becomes very flavorful and very tender. I'm going to show you how. Come here. Okay, so if you look at this cut of meat, you will see that there are very long lines all running in the same direction. These are called grains. What these grains are is they're basically individual strips of muscle that form in the beef. These lines are not a cutout on the dotted line. They're not directions for how to cut. If you follow these lines, you will wind up with the toughest, chewiest bite of meat you've ever had. What you want to do instead is cut against the grain. So basically, you're going to make a hashtag kind of pattern. Let's look at it this way. I'm going to start, I know I just told you not to, but bear with me for a second here. We're going to cut this meat in half. We are following the grain. One time and only one time. The reason for that is because I want bite-sized strips, and if I go this whole long way the whole time, it's going to be a very long piece of meat. So we've cut it in half. We now have 2 different parts of the meat. I'm gonna start with this one. So again, you see the lines running this way. We're now going to cut in the opposite direction, and we wanna do about pinky's width pieces of meat. So cut those into strips. Be very careful, you're only cutting the steak. You do not want to cut your fingers, that's not good eating. And we're just going to go for the entire length of this steak. A couple more here. And this guy. Okay, so the reason this works so well is you can still hopefully see these lines in the meat. What will happen is when you go to bite them, your teeth will pull them apart and they will be very tender. As you can see, I'm literally doing this with my bare hands and it's raw. Think how good that's gonna be once it's cooked. If you're going the other way, your teeth are going to try to pull it apart and it just won't tear. The same thing that's happening with my fingers is what's going to happen if you try to chew it if it's cut the wrong way. So again, little hashtags, nice and springy like an accordion, that's a good cut of meat. I'm going to just go ahead and finish these guys. Let's get those little pieces out of the way. And I'll start on the other end just to keep things interesting. Make sure you cut all the way through. So again, we are going against the grain. Nice little hashtag patterns here, all the way down this side. And now we've got a very generous amount of meat. This piece of steak will probably feed 2, maybe 3 people very generously. I know it doesn't look like a lot of meat, but don't forget we're also adding a ton of vegetables. You can put this on top of rice. It stretches into a very big meal using a very little bit of meat. And again, that's what makes this so economical. So now that the meat is cut, I'm going to just get rid of my knife. I'm going to get all of my meat nice and flat, and I'm also going to take a second just to wash my hands. All right, I'm clean and dry, so let's talk seasonings. For the protein, and again, you can use this seasoning blend for any kind of protein that you want to put in your stir fry. I am using onion powder, garlic powder, ginger, salt, and pepper. You may notice it is almost the exact same seasoning blend that we used in our sauce. The only difference being, this time around, I am using salt instead of the red pepper flakes, just to mellow things out a little bit. Also, we're not using the soy sauce, so now we need to put some salt in. So just like with the sauce, when you are seasoning your protein, you can use as much or as little, mix and match this spice combination however you like. This is your stir fry, make it your own. I'm going to start by just doing a generous sprinkle of each type of spice all over my steak. So this is the onion powder, and I'm just going to keep sprinkling. By the way, if you want a great tip for how to sprinkle, you pinch, and then you kind of do this with your fingers, and that's how you get a really nice, even sprinkle. Pretend it's pixie dust. All right, that's our onion powder. This is our garlic powder. Same thing, all over. It is very rare to have meat in a stir fry that is over seasoned. The only thing you might go crazy on is the salt, and so go easy there. Again, you can always add more. You can't take it back out again. But for these other spices, more is usually more. So have fun with it. This is the ginger. This one's a little harder to sprinkle because it's such a finely ground spice. It kind of likes to stick together, but just keep going with your pixie dust method. Gonna put some salt. And what's nice is because my hands are clean and dry, all of the spice comes off. You don't have to worry about one spice getting into the other. All right, salt, black pepper, same thing, sprinkle, sprinkle. So at this point, you're probably looking at this going, that's a lot of spice on that steak. But remember, the other side hasn't been seasoned yet. And here's all we're going to do is just take this and start scrunching it. And as you scrunch, all of the spices will start to move around and cover all of the steak so that every bite, every direction, no matter how you pick it up and put it in your mouth, is going to have some of this delicious, delicious spice already seared into it. Now that it's seasoned, I'm just going to pop it into my bowl here. And it's just going to wait out of the way until we're ready to get cooking. We are in the home stretch for the prep work for our stir fry, and that is our vegetables. So for vegetables in a stir fry, you have a couple of options. You can absolutely use the pre-sliced bagged vegetables. They come fresh or frozen, and they even have stir fry mixes that are pretty good. If you use that route, all you have to do is open a bag and you're ready to start cooking. Pretty convenient. They're also a lot more expensive than when you just buy the whole vegetables and break them apart yourself, and that's what I'm going to be doing. So for today's stir fry, I am using a broccoli, carrot, and onion. Other common vegetables though are green beans, bell peppers, mushrooms, bean sprouts. Basically anything that's tough enough to withstand high heat and rough handling is good to use in a stir fry. So you can absolutely experiment, mix and match, use what you have and use what you like. I'm going to get started with the onion. So I'm just going to get the broccoli and the carrot out of the way until we're ready for it. Okay, so this is our onion. There's a little bit of a trick to slicing an onion for a stir fry, and I'm going to show you what I like to do. So start by slicing off both ends of your onion. So just the root end as well as the leafy part. And I'll just throw those into a garbage bowl. And now that you've sliced off the ends, you can flip it, and now it's on a nice flat surface, which is a lot safer for cutting than the wobbly side. So, flat surface of the onion, I'm just going to go straight through the middle. And then to get the peel off the onion, I recommend you always take off one layer more than you think you need, because my experience has showed me every time you try to get really stingy with how much onion you peel, that's the time there's a little bit of papery part left over, and when you bite into it, it's not a very nice texture. Okay, peel is off the onion. I'm going to turn it now so that the original cut ends are facing me, and I'm just going to do 3, maybe 4 slices, depending on the size of the onion that you have. Basically, what you're looking for is about 2 fingers width for a slice of onion. And the reason for that is because when the stir fry is cooking, the onion will cook very quickly, and if you slice it too thin, it's going to get really soggy and it's not going to taste as good as the other vegetables. So when you leave it thick like this, what it will do is it will still have some of its texture, but it's also going to be sweet because it's still a cooked onion. So I'm just separating these cut slices, trying to pull them as much apart as possible. Once you get closer to the root though of the onion, it's okay to leave them together because that part is a little bit smaller. So really what I'm looking for is a very similar length and width of onion slice, and that's how you're going to get a really nice uniform cooking. Break apart these last couple. Okay, onion is ready. Let's move on to that carrot. So for the carrot, I'm just going to start by peeling it. Nothing too fancy there. I was always told growing up that you should peel away from you when you're peeling vegetables. I don't care how long I have been using vegetable peelers, I cannot get them to peel away from me. It just doesn't grip the same way. I don't know if any of you guys have that same problem. If so, I would love to know. Please let me know below. Tell me I'm not alone out there. I can only do it if I'm peeling toward myself. So my advice is, if you're like me, if you just can't get it to go the other way, just be careful. Try not to nick yourself. These things are actually quite sharp, so you don't want to cut yourself. Okay, just like my onion, carrot peel is going into my garbage bowl. And the next thing I'm going to do is just slice off both ends of the carrot. So I want to slice off the tip because this part is very small and it's going to cook a lot faster than the rest of the carrot will. And I'm, for the same reason, going to slice off the back end because it is much thicker. It's going to cook much more slowly. So for the carrot, usually instinctively you kind of want to just run your knife straight through it into nice little carrot coins. But because we made that really nice stir fry sauce, I like to have a little extra surface area to pick up that sauce. And the way you do that is just by cutting the carrot a little more diagonally. And what that will do is it will give you a longer piece of carrot, and that's going to pick up all of that sauce. It's also a lot easier to spear with a fork or to pick up with your chopsticks. Just makes the whole carrot eating process a lot easier. So what I'm doing here for these carrot slices is about 1/4 of an inch thick, and you want to try to keep it that thickness all throughout. I have found that with carrots, even though this piece is significantly bigger than this piece, because they're about the same thickness, they do end up cooking at about the same time because they're both flat down in the pan. So worry more about the thickness. That'll get you a nice even cooking on your carrots. And just like the onions, I'm just going to break them apart. Make sure you don't have any carrots stuck together because they won't come apart as they're stir frying, and that's when you'll wind up with one piece that's not as well cooked as the others. Actually, even this guy's still pretty thick, so I'm gonna just go down him one more time. And now that's our carrot done. Let's do the broccoli. I've already washed my broccoli. I do recommend you wash your broccoli and all of your vegetables as soon as you bring them home from the market. It just saves you a step. Once you're home for the day and ready to cook, it's one less thing you have to deal with. I am using a whole broccoli bunch here, and these are the kind that have a longer stem. I want to show you that there's actually a way that you can use this stem, especially in something like a stir fry, so that you have very little vegetable waste. I'm going to start by just slicing as close to the broccoli florets as possible. Keep this stem, do not throw this away. I'm going to show you what to do with it. Okay, so for these florets though, I'm just going to start by separating them from their inner core. And what we're going to do, keep this part, I'll show you what to do with it afterward. What you want is for all of your broccoli to be about the same size. Just like our carrot, just like our onion, if everything is a uniform size, it's going to cook a lot more evenly. So that'll be about my starter piece. He's the smallest piece of broccoli I have. And everything else, I'm just going to chop in half, maybe into thirds or quarters, just so that they're all the same size as that little guy was. So, run my knife through these. He looks good. He looks good. This one I'll cut in half. Same with this one. Okay, and then for this inner core, it's a lot more joined together. As with that first slice, you can kind of just run your knife through it. And then this one I'm going to slice into quarters. That looks good. This too. Okay, so these are our broccoli stems. This part was close to the top. It's really nice and tender. I'm going to just run my knife right through it. Those are good to go. So the secret to a broccoli stem, very often we throw this away because it's very tough, it's very chewy, it just doesn't taste as good. But if you actually peel it the same way you peel a potato or a carrot, that rough outer skin is gone and what's left in the middle is the same delicious broccoli texture that you're going to get on a broccoli floret. So you don't have to go quite as, you don't need as much attention to detail if you're peeling a broccoli. You don't need to get every last piece of outer peel off, but if you can get the majority of it, that's what's going to make sure it tastes a lot more tender. So it's a little harder to peel because there are more nooks and crannies. Just be patient, keep working at it. I got lucky though, this is actually a fairly straight piece of broccoli. Sometimes they're very branchy and they can be a little more tricky to work with. Okay, so this extra peel, this is the part that you probably don't like to eat. So once that's gone, now you've just got a really nice little broccoli, we'll call it a broccoli heart. If you slice it the long way, now it's kind of resembling our carrot, and just like our carrot, we're going to go with that same diagonal, same thickness, and that's going to make sure that it cooks at about the same rate as all the carrots did. And then, once that's done, you will see out of that broccoli stem that you were probably going to throw away, you get somewhere between a half to 3/4, maybe even a full cup of extra broccoli, depending on how long your stem is. And that's good stuff in a stir fry. So into the bowl that goes. And now all of our prep work is done and it's time to get cooking. All right, so we have got our prep work finished. We've got our sauce, our protein, and our vegetables all chopped and ready to go. It's time to get cooking. Before we do though, I do just want to make a quick note. I want to point out that I did all of the prep work for this before cooking. I cannot stress to you enough how important that is when you stir fry, that you have everything ready to go. For stir fries specifically, once you start cooking, things come together very quickly. You want to make sure that you have it ready to go, because if you are trying to peel a carrot while your meat is cooking, I guarantee you it's going to burn. So better to have a few moments to wipe down a counter while you're waiting for something to finish than to be trying to play catch up and rushing. You don't want to burn your dinner. This is going to be a great meal. Give yourself the few extra minutes. You will thank yourself. Okay, so prep work is ready. I have got just a big giant pan here. Now traditionally a stir fry is made in a wok, which is a very big curved dish. It's heavy, it absorbs heat, it really transfers things nicely. I also find most people probably don't have a wok in their kitchen, and it's because they're big. They make the best stir fry. However, I want to show you on just a regular pan, because I do want to just make very clear to you, you don't need a wok to make a stir fry. You have to make a couple of tweaks to adjust for the fact that the heat is going to be different, but use the biggest, heaviest pan you have. I've honestly even done this in a soup pot before and it worked fine. So we're going to do this in a regular pan. Let's get going. So what I've got here is just some oil. Use whatever oil you like. You do want it to be a lightly flavored oil, so olive oil at the richest, but canola oil, vegetable oil works totally fine. And into the pan we go with this. I'm going to put about a tablespoon of oil, and we're going to let this get good and hot. Now I've already got my pan going on medium-high heat. I'm just going to give this a swirl. Try to get the oil all around the pan. And you will know it's ready when the oil starts to kind of ripple and move all by itself. It's the kind of magic cue that we are ready to start cooking. Now, yes, my oil is moving. We can get in there with our meat. So, medium-high heat, like I said, step one is going to be in with the meat. So we'll do a little test piece here. Yes, and it is starting to sizzle already. That's a great sign that your pan is hot enough. If it's not sizzling when you put the meat in there, wait a couple more minutes. You want things to be hot, hot. Okay, so you want the meat very evenly scattered. If anything is on top of each other, it's going to steam instead of sear. And we want to get a really nice crust on everything. So space it out. Don't overcrowd the pan. We'll just get that bowl out of the way. And now, this is going to be the hardest and probably the most tempting part of cooking. You want to move it around. Don't do it yet. Just leave it alone. Leave everything alone. What's going to happen is one side of the meat is going to get a really nice sear to it. I know it's called a stir fry. I know it's really tempting to keep it moving, but trust me, this extra little sear is going to make for a really nice crisp outer exterior on the meat. It's so good. Also, if you're not using meat, if you're using something like, say, tofu, same thing. The longer you leave it in the pan, the better it's going to get. I know when I was first starting to learn how to cook, 1 minute would just take a lifetime while you're waiting for everything to happen. Instead of moving it around, honestly, if it's new to you, if you're still getting that feeling for how long to let something sit, set a kitchen timer for 1 minute and just resist the temptation. Once you kind of got it in your blood, we'll say, you'll get that groove, you'll know to just do something else while you're waiting. Like I am today, talking about what we're cooking. We're just giving this a chance to really start cooking. Once you've let some time pass, you can give it a peek, see if it's starting to get any color. And even there, while I was talking, it's still not ready yet. This has some time. I'm going to adjust my heat ever so slightly to get my pan just a little bit hotter. Now what you can do, if you really need to do something, is just give everything a little bit of a press into the pan. Don't stir it, don't move it, you can press it flat. And that will just help to get a little more contact area on the hot surface while the meat is cooking. And that will also help to get that really nice crust on the outside. So, let this go for just another minute here. And let me take another peek here. That is looking really good. Okay, so meat is happy. Now we can finally start stir frying. So you're just gonna move things around a little bit. What you want to do is just make sure that the meat has had a chance to cook a little bit on all sides. We're spreading the oil around, and because all those beautiful spices weren't on the meat, we're actually infusing the oil that we're cooking with, and that's just another depth of flavor. And that's just another little secret to a stir fry that makes it so delicious with so few ingredients. It's just really about maximizing what you are using for the ultimate flavor. Okay, so This is looking good. I'm going to just move the meat off to the outer edges, and the next thing I'm putting in are the vegetables. So everything's going in at once. That's why we cut it all to the same size. We're going to get those in and just let them go for a moment. So same thing as with the meat. You just want to give it a couple of seconds, maybe a minute, to just let things start to get some sear on one side. The vegetables will take a little bit to cook, so they're going to need just a little bit of a head start, a little bit of a help before we start really moving things around. But you can already hear it sizzling. You can smell those onions starting to cook. For me personally, it's not a stir fry unless it's got onions in it, because I just love the smell of the cooking onions in a stir fry. For me, even if I buy a frozen stir fry mixed bag, say I'm just trying to put a dinner together really quickly that night, if it doesn't have onions, I will go out of my way to chop an extra onion just to put it in the stir fry. So, you know, that's the beauty of a stir fry. It's you put what you like in it, and you can add extra vegetables. You can leave things out. It's kind of the one chance to eat all of your vegetables and not have to pick around anything because you've made it yourself, so all of your favorites are in that pan. Okay, these are starting to look good. So you may note that at this moment, the vegetables are still pretty well raw. And if you're making this in a pan, you have to do a couple of things to help it cook faster. If you're doing this in a wok, just keep moving it around. The heat is so intense in a wok that it's going to cook very quickly and it will come together quickly. But in a regular pan, you're going to have to move things around. And then, before this is even done cooking, we're actually going to get the sauce in there. So the sauce has been sitting for a while. I'm just going to give it a quick little whisk to move around that cornstarch that has settled to the bottom. There we go. And now that it has come back together again, we're just going to pour that into the pan. And then, once again, if you are cooking in a wok, this is going to come together very quickly. It's going to steam the vegetables very fast. Everything's going to happen right away. Cooking this in your own pan, however, you actually need a little extra step, and that's going to just be putting a lid on and letting the vegetables steam for just a moment. That's going to help everything get a little more tender. You don't want the vegetables to be overcooked because a soggy stir fry, it's a sad stir fry. So you want it to be kind of tender crisp. So somewhere in between, not raw, not cooked all the way through, but just that beautiful middle ground is right when you get that perfect stir fry. So I'm just going to get some stuff out of the way. We don't need the oil anymore, we're finished. But what I will be serving my stir fry with is rice noodles. And I actually already have another episode for how to cook rice noodles, and I'm going to include that link in the description for this video as well. You can certainly use steamed rice, white rice, brown rice, whatever you've got on hand. You don't even need to have a carbohydrate if you just want to eat the vegetables and the meat. That's a meal in and of itself. I do, however, like to have a little something extra, just especially if you're feeding a crowd. It's a good way to get the most out of what you're cooking. Gets a little more to work with. It's a nice big plate. Plus, all of that beautiful sauce that we made is going to get absorbed by the noodles or by the rice, whatever it is that you're choosing to use, and that just is what pushes a beautiful stir fry over the edge. So delicious. Let's see, my pan is getting nice and steamy here. I'm just going to give it a little check. There we go. It's looking good. What I am waiting for is for just the sauce to start coming to a boil. It's almost there. It's such a big pan, it's going to take a minute to absorb some of that heat and really get going. I can hear it though. It's sounding really good. It's looking very good. So we're just going to give it a few more moments and we will have a peek at it in about 1 to 2 minutes. Okay, so I have given this about 2 or 3 minutes with the lid on. Let's take a peek. Is that a nice cloud of steam? That's a great sign. I'm going to get this lid out of the way. And let's give this a little check. So our vegetables are nice and steamed. Our carrots are getting soft. You can always just kind of press on a carrot, and when it starts to have a little bit of give, that's how you know it's ready. We'll give this one final mix around in that sauce, and this is ready to eat. So this is looking good. I am going to just bring this whole pan over to my rice noodles. Grab a spoon here so I can get it out a little more easily. And I'm just gonna pour this whole thing right down over the rice noodles. Sauce, protein, vegetables, and all. Make sure you get every last bit of that sauce out of there. And like I said, the rice noodles underneath are going to absorb all of the sauce, all of the juices from the meat and the vegetables. And out of just that humble broccoli, carrot, onion, and a little bit of beef, you now have a massive plate of food ready to serve at your table or ready to serve to your family. Super healthy, super affordable, and super easy. And just like that, our stir fry is ready to go. Did you give it a try? I'd love to hear about what vegetables and proteins you picked and what you thought of the recipe. This recipe can be found in the description below. Please like and subscribe for more videos. I'm Jessica. Thanks for watching.